Good day, thumbs up. Have you ever thumb wrestled? Yeah? Yeah, use your thumb to pin another person's thumb, right? Imagine thumb wrestling with a person beside you right now. Here are the rules. Every time you pin the other person's thumb for a second, you get a quarter. You've got 30 seconds. Go. I really just said imagine, but you can do it. It's okay. So you interlock your fingers, your thumbs are going, the competitive juices are going, and your arms are flying. Yeah! Okay, when I do this with people, on average, how many quarters do you think I pay out? 0. 0 is a good guess. I like that. Any other guesses? 3. On average, pay out 3 quarters. As I pay people their 3 quarters, I ask them, what would have happened if you had cooperated? Light bulbs start to go off. Can we do it again? Because they realize the potential payout was 30 quarters, right? 1 quarter per second. The difference between 3 and 30 is the cost of missed opportunities. It happens because we assume that life's rewards and resources are a fixed pie. It happens in politics, it happens in athletics, it happens in market share, it happens to us all the time, all right? And we get used to it, we get used to that. However, there are people who look at life through a different lens. Those are the growers, all right? I'd like to share with you, through these jelly bean jars, who some of these people are. Right here we have the growers, right here we have the grabbers, and in between a couple jars I call skeptics and supporters, all right? The grabbers, they believe life is win-lose. It's a fixed pie. If I get more, it's going to take away from you. That's the life of a grabber, okay? Skeptics also believe in win-lose. They've been exposed to it a lot. They just believe that. They will, however, listen to reason. They will listen and go along with something if they see it's in their best interest, if you prove it to them, all right? On to the green jelly beans. We have the supporters. Supporters believe in win-win. They believe in abundance and growth and all those great things. They've just been exposed to so many win-lose situations that they're defensive. So when we're thumb wrestling, all these groups will battle, and they'll go 0 or 3 or whatever the case may be, right? Because that's ingrained in them. Then we have the growers, who look at life through a different lens. The growers see win-win, they see the possibilities, they see the 30 quarters. They see the difference between the two. They see a pie that has 3 quarters, and they see a pie that has 30 quarters, and they go, you know what? We can go for the 30 quarters. It takes vision and creativity. So let's go back to the thumb wrestling for just a minute and hear what each of these sounds like if they were thumb wrestling, all right? So the grower thinks, because they have this recurrent loop in their head that goes, what would happen if we cooperated? And then they answer that question with a vision, right? So they get to it and they ask the other people that they're thumb wrestling, you want to cooperate? We could get a lot of quarters if we cooperate. So that's what they say. Now all these other people, if they're going in between each other, they're just going to compete. But if a grower says to a supporter, how about we cooperate? The supporter is like, yes, I love cooperation. This is great. If a grower says, hey, let's cooperate to a skeptic, the skeptic is like, oh, I see where you're going with this. So if we cooperate, we could earn $7.50. Okay, I'll do it as long as I get $4 and you get $3.50, because I still want to beat you, okay? If the grower says, hey, let's cooperate to a grabber, it sounds something like this. There's no cooperation in thumb wrestling. Let's get ready to rumble, all right? So those are the spectrum from win-lose to win-win. My interest in this goes back to the 1990s. There were a lot of cities, several cities in one metropolitan area that I was part of that weren't really getting along very well. Here's a detailed map of those cities. Oh, first, let me tell you the percentages since they're up here on the slide. The percentages that people ask me about for each of these groups, 20%, 30%, 40%, 10%, that's my working hypothesis, all right? So let's go back to that detailed map of the cities that weren't getting along very well. Here it is. Now, one of them, they were doing great things individually, right? So they're building a botanical center, building an ice hockey rink, wanting to host a national golf tournament. But when it came to support for other cities outside their own, it just wasn't very good. It wasn't very good. So I was part of a team that helped leaders go through a simulation and figure out when to compete and when to cooperate. And they got pretty good at figuring out when to cooperate and turned it into more money, all right? So, and I used that simulation for a lot of years, up until 2011. 2011, went to work for an urban youth organization helping teenagers. I'd see what the teenagers' behaviors were, and it was a lot like the people that I worked with as adults. There'd be a lot of people copying and mimicking the grabbers. So, and that takes the form of jealousy, comparing on social media, bullying, fighting, and worse. And for me, at about 3 years into it, it climaxed on Thursday, November 7th, 2013. On my social media feed, I began to see comments like, "This is so tragic. I'm so sorry. Shouldn't have happened." At 6:30 p.m. on the corner of 21st and Forest, a young man was shot and killed. And as part of what I do, we gathered with friends and family the next day, and you're asking why. Trying to comfort each other. But I'd go back to the same things that I would see in adults who are grabbers versus growers, and wondering, how do we best change this? Through the young people directly, through the adults. And so it put me on a new path to say, look, I think what we need to do is find the growers, their stories, and their lessons. So that's what I'd like to share with you real quickly right now, are 4 stories and a quick lesson about the growers, all right? Good news is, go back to those towns in the 1990s, guess what? They started to cooperate. In fact, they built this joint facility as a group, and in the first 10 years of operation, it saved them $2 million, okay? It's like quarters, except it's a lot more of them, right? So, and I thought, this is a great story. And I sat down with one of the city managers, with Marquita, and I said, Marquita, how did this happen? How did you get around to doing this? And she said, it's pretty simple, coffee. Coffee and conversations. We talk to each other, we have monthly meetings. She said, it's pretty easy. And I said, you don't know how different you are in your group that you're able to do this. So conversations, first lesson. Second story, the 50th anniversary of Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon, NASA launched 3 astronauts up to the International Space Station. Now, I remember watching that One Giant Leap on TV, right? And I remember Russia, the United States, being at each other's throats when it came to the space race, right? So when, on the anniversary, when they're sending up a Russian, an Italian, an American, I'm going, this is a great story. We need to find out how the people in the space program get along these days. So I call up NASA. I said, may I please come and talk to the astronauts on media day? And they said, who are you? I go, you're on a waiting list. Okay. So they finally got back to me on a Wednesday night and said, yes, we've got a slot for you. Thursday, drive 14 hours to Houston. Friday, I get a chance to speak with Luca, the guy I really wanted to talk to because he's in the middle, in Italy, and said, how do the countries get along? He raised his hand up and said, we have bigger goals. And when you have bigger goals, it allows everybody to make contributions. They can all make contributions within that bigger scope. Fantastic lesson. Thank you, Luca. All right. So I wanted another story where competition was the norm, but people were collaborating, that people would get along. Well, competition does not get much more fierce for jobs or salaries than in the National Football League. So when I heard that Super Bowl MVP Von Miller was hosting a camp for other people on other teams who hosted pass rushers, I'm thinking, what? You're helping your competitors? Why are you doing this, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I get the name of the lodge that they're staying at, I get in my car, I drive down there, I find the field that night, and I go, oh man, book me a room. Get up before dark, up before sunset, I haul my tripod, my video camera, and the little laminated badge that I made that said Lee Towe, my picture, video crew. Surely they will let me in. The players came, Vaughn came, and fortunately they said, come on in. So I got my chance at a break to ask Vaughn. I go, Vaughn, why do you help your competitors? Hand to his chest. He goes, Lee, I have confidence in what I do. And if I help the younger players, if I help the other players, it helps the league. I feel better about it. It helps the league. It makes it better for all of us. All right? Key word there, confidence, is what it took for him to get that done. Fourth story, at the Boston area home of author Safi Bahcall. Safi had a friend that he put in his book named Judah Folkman. Judah was a pediatric surgeon in the 1960s and 70s. Judah would remove cancer tumors from some of his young patients and go, you know, there are blood vessels going in and out of this tumor. I wonder if we could treat cancer by shutting down the blood flow to some of those tumors. And he kept pulling on that thread. He was ridiculed. He had a hard time getting money for his research. It took years and years and years, but finally, yes, it was proven that his theory was true. And a whole new pie of cancer treatment was born. Now, I had no idea 2 years ago when I talked to Safi how grateful I would be, because last week, in her fight against peritoneal cancer, my wife received her 5th dose of the very drug that Judah Folkman discovered, right? And as Safi said, yeah. That is awesome, and very, very grateful, to say the least. Judah used curiosity. That's what Safi had said. Curiosity was the key. So, to the growers here today, keep doing what you're doing. Keep up with the curiosity, the creativity, the collaboration, the cooperation in order to make it happen, to create a new pie, to have the vision to create something from scratch, or to collaborate with other people to grow the pie, to make it bigger for the benefit of everyone, right? The rest of us, what we need is some movement this direction. So we're going to have a little ceremony, perhaps. Supporters, you are the people who believe in win-win. What is it you need? The thing that Vaughn told us about, confidence. It sort of reminds me of the Wizard of Oz. The lions run around there going, oh, I don't have any courage, until he finds the wizard. And the wizard said, you've had courage all along. Look at the things you've done. You're terrific. All you need, back where I come from, is we give our heroes a medal. Now, I don't have time to bring you all up on stage to give you a medal, so here's what we're going to do. Imagine yourself, all you supporters who are identified in this area, you are the little jelly beans in this jar. And we're going to have a ceremony. Let's call it the pouring of the beans. And as we pour them, as you decide, yes, I'm confident enough, I can do this, I am going to be a grower, I'm going to pour these beans, and you guys are going to cheer for those guys who are making that decision today. Here we go. Yes, we have skeptics here today, probably, one or two, and being skeptical isn't always bad, but skeptics need it proven to them. What did Lucas say? Make your goal bigger, so that you're allowed to contribute. And think of the joy you're going to feel, skeptics, because up to this point, you're just taking other people's pieces of pie. But when you actually contribute to it, then you're getting pie that you helped make. This is awesome. This is amazing. And so instead of fighting for your seat at the table to keep it or to get somebody else's seat at the table, build a bigger table, right? Yeah. So here you go. Move on up. Move on up. Yes, yes. And grabbers. Yes, I know you've been indoctrinated in the ways of win-lose. Can you save that drive, that energy, that skill that you've really acquired? Can you save it for when it's fun or motivating, or sometimes it's absolutely necessary, right? But think of that pie. Think what you're missing out. Because if you're going around, we are the champions, when you got 2 quarters because the other person got 1, so I won, I got 2 quarters. And I've had a lot of people do that. And I go, you left 27 quarters on the table. All right? Grabbers, grow the pie. Then there'll be more. That's what creates the abundance. So, if you would, for those growers or for those grabbers who are moving on up toward this direction, let's give them some applause today too. All right, this is awesome. This has been awesome. I have just about wrecked from listening to all these speakers here today before I had to get up here because it's just so many amazing things. But you know what? That's not really the point. The point is all the people I'm looking at right now, right? The people who go out, all of you. You guys are the real reason to gather today. It's your purpose, it's your mission, it's the stuff you're doing. So let's now make all of you guys the closing speakers. Stand on up, here we go. Yes, I'm serious, stand up. You didn't know you were have to do this. It was in the waiver or something like that, right? So, okay, so here we go. Moving toward being a grower, here's what we need from you. Each of you are one of these little beans, right? Here we go. With me, say it loud, especially if you're wearing a mask. I want to hear you. Here we go. If the world makes it seem, oh, that's pretty good. Just a little bit louder. Here we go. If the world makes it seem like you're one little bean, join together with growers so your why will be seen. Focus your vision on roads that are high. Achieve your life's mission by growing a pie. Good job!